Pardon me. Hello out there, people of the interwebs, wherever you might be. That one says upcoming. We don't want upcoming, we want. Okay, excellent connection. Hey, there got a few folks here. Popped in to join the soiree. Skilled Rook, Doc Games Roxy. What's up, fellas? I hope my microphone's not picking up too much noise in the background because, pardon me, this is Mrs. Jackson's Saturday off. So she is enjoying relaxing on the couch, watching some TV, and I am cooking homemade Italian dinner for her this evening. So I also have the dishwasher going. And a few other regular domestic homely type sounds. So, which we don't get to do very often, believe it or not, because we're both busy people. So, Sean Zimmerman's here. And yeah. So I thought you guys were going to enjoy the boss shootout video that I did earlier this week more than, it didn't get nearly as many views as I thought it was going to. You guys seem to really like the overdrive video that I did a couple weeks ago. And so I did one of the distortion pedals, and you guys barely watched it. So, sometimes that happens. That's part of how YouTube works for some reason, or not. I guess that's how it works anyway. Let's see. Sean Zimmerman is here. Charles 75N, Don B. What's happening, fellas? Weekend has arrived, and this was a long week for me. I don't know about you guys, but it was man, I had a long week. A lot going on at work, and yeah, just a lot going on at work. So, Robert Bryan is here. Hello from Shelbyville. I didn't know you lived in Shelbyville. That's not too far from me. Frankfurt says just got a JP 150 and it's great. As in a Petrucci? Which one's the JP 150? Is that the Sterling model? Yeah, that's the Sterling model. Cool. Yeah, those are excellent guitars for what $700 or so. Yeah, I have actually considered getting one of the Sterling models as as a secondary for myself, but part of the reason why I haven't is because my Music Man Majesty has spoiled me, particularly with the piezo and all the other, the boost and all the other goodies and stuff that it's got on it that don't come on the Sterling models. So, I know I'd miss it if I bought one of the Sterlings. So, because I use all of that stuff. Skilled Rook says I started a college guitar class for metal this semester. Wish me luck. What is a college guitar class for metal? I'm curious to know what the curriculum of that would be about. Is it like the history of metal, and or is it is it actually like a music class? They didn't have anything like that when I was in college. That would have been a class I actually would have shown up for. Frankfurt says, Ivan called your guitars mediocre. Well, the truth is, compared to a lot of collections out there, my collection is very mediocre. But, I don't particularly, I suppose it is a collection, but, I own a lot of import guitars. I get some higher end stuff too, but, most of it's more, more mere mortal uh, design stuff that I like. So, I buy them to play them. I don't buy them to flip them or, you know, show off any status symbols or anything like that. So, there's, I've seen some really, really impressive, very valuable collections in my day. Mine can't hang with any of them. So, I've even seen part of Jim Irsay's collection. I've seen a lot of Jim Irsay's collection. So, of course, his is worth, God, his is worth millions. Another buddy of mine, Dave Ingles, got a pretty valuable collection as well. Real similar to Irsay's. So tell Ivan, thanks for noticing. Also tell him I love you too, Ivan. I do. I love that guy. Great guy. Miss working with him. It's Lessons for Metal. So is it a guitar course? And what school are you going to? I'm not making fun of it. I'm legitimately, I'm legitimately interested to know what this is about. Yeah, no, that's cool. About time the metal community started getting some recognition at the college level. Tim Jenkins 502 says I played Sterling Majesty at a guitar shop and played like butter. Wanted to buy, but just didn't have the cash at the time. That's what I like about the Sterlings, man. I mean, they're set up. It's not the same wood selection and electronics and stuff like that, but they're set up and built to the exact same specs as the really expensive ones, and blindfolded anyway. Just based on just playability, I'm not sure you can tell a difference. And all of the Sterling guitars are like that, man. I've been saying forever now I need a really good Strat. I can't believe I haven't looked at any of the Sterlings. Richard D. Little says, dude, I got my Epiphone Zakk Wylde 2002. Awesome, man. Bullseye Les Paul, I'm assuming. 2002. Might be, if it's the Epiphone, then the Buzzsaw as well. I think they were making. I don't think the camo had come out yet, but. Tim Jenkins says to me, if you have a nice import like a deluxe LTD model or Pro Series Jackson along those lines to perform and record, you really don't need anything more expensive. Yeah, there are a lot of guitars out there, in the, what I call the mere mortal price range, stuff that, that a lot more of us can afford, myself included, that, plays, performs just about as well as, the higher end counterparts. But that said, the high end, higher end stuff. If you never have, gotten to, gotten to own one, and I really do think you have to own one instead of just, sitting down trying it out in the store. I think that's really where you see the difference. But I absolutely agree with you. I can't always justify the money. for a lot of those guitars. Thank God Gibson brought their prices back down. Um, I mean, I can get on board $2,500 for a Les Paul Standard, 3,500, 3,800, $4,000 for a Les Paul Standard. No. And honestly, I think they're building them better now too. But that's another topic altogether. Robert Bryant says, "Did you see David Gilmour Strat in that collection? Um, the black one? No, he hadn't bought it yet. He just bought the Gilmour Strat. That was just like within the last 6 months or year, I believe. Because Gilmour had a lot of his collection up for sale at auction, and Jim Irsay used to have a personal curator for his guitar collection, and the guy who was his curator for a long time is a good friend of mine. Um, he's not doing that anymore, unfortunately. But that was how I got to see and hear a lot about guitars. There were a lot about his guitars, but he hadn't bought the Gilmour yet at that point, if memory serves. Constable 1976 says, "I heard Irsay is going to display the black Strat somewhere in public. Not sure where. I would. Oof. I haven't heard that. He has been. He has loaned his collection to, at least a few museums, for exhibit purposes. There's a museum here in Indianapolis called the Idle Jorg, and several years back, they had an exhibit they called Cars and Guitars, I think, and it was a kind of a conglomerate about basically it was a lot of really really high end old vintage guitars and cars, but most of them were from either famous collections like his, or they were owned by like well known musicians and rock stars and stuff like that. For example, they had one of James Hetfield's hot rods in there that he, with this particular hot rod, James Hetfield also has an old Mesa Boogie, I think it's a Mark II C Plus combo that he had done. He had the vinyl from the car matched, and replaced the Tolex with the vinyl on the car on the outside of his amp. It's actually really cool. Um, but it was a lot of stuff like that. But Irsay, a lot of Irsay's collection was on exhibit there, that he had loaned out. And I know he's done that probably a couple of other times. So if he does do that, it's probably either going to be at a museum where it's under a very very tight lock and key. He's not going to put it in a glass case or anything like that at Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm sure they could figure out a way to keep it secure if they did that, but yeah, I don't think it's public is going to be, it'll be public, but it'll be very very secure. What did he pay for the Gilmour Strat? I mean, it was like he paid, I think he paid over $1 million for it, upwards of, maybe even upwards of two. Tim Jenkins 502 says, "I've recorded albums and played festivals with my $1,000 imports. I record a track or every week, if not two, with just about every week anyway, with one of my imports, and played plenty of shows, plenty of gigs with my imports. Among many, many, well, honestly, most of the guitar playing that I do is usually when I'm sitting in front of a camera, so you guys see most of it." David Cannon is here. This is hi from the UK. Keep up the great work. The worst series are the best. The last one didn't do real well, actually. Last one of those didn't do real well. But sometimes I do those, just partially just to get a kick out of, because I get a kick out of them myself because I think they're funny, and it's even it's even funnier to see how many people get bent out of shape, which lead to more videos in the Know Your Troll series. So, kill two birds here. Doc Amos Roxy says Ursay should tour it around three world. I'm assuming that means that's a typo for the world. Make all his money back plus more. I assure you, Jim Irsay is not hurting for money. I try that much. I am very very sure of. Um, there's what 500 some odd billionaires in the United States, and he's one of them. So, yeah, he is not hurting for money by any means. I don't think he's too concerned about whether or not he gets his money back for him or not. Um, as far as tour the world, he the guy is so busy, he'd have to pay somebody to do it. Um, he's because even right now, when I was at the store, anytime we got in a really, really high end vintage piece like that, he was always one of the guys that we called first. And, just to let him say, if this is something you're interested in, we want to let you know it was here. And, there was, a lot of time, if it was in season, and we couldn't get a hold of Chris, and, a lot of times Chris would be like, he's not thinking about guitars right now at all. Right now he's thinking about the playoffs, or he's thinking about, um, something else regarding the Colts. And I mean, his, with Jim Irsay, hats off to him. With him, it's he's Colts first. That is his life. The guitar stuff is, guitar collecting is just a hobby for him. Um, so it's finding time. Him finding time to, for that stuff is, he doesn't have a lot of it. David Cannon says, "Do UK tube amps rule?" Most of them do. I get a little skeptical about some of the ones that say Blackstar on them, but I'm just kidding. Blackstar amps are okay. But yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm a diehard Marshall guy. I love the Vox AC30s and AC15s. Uh, One of the heaviest sounding amps I've ever heard was an Orange Thunderverb. Love to have one of those, even though they discontinued them. Let's see here. Lefty guitarist Tim Bucktu. Dave's Guitar Channel. Mad Matt 55. I'm sorry. Sevinity Guitars. Non-existent human. And that's all that I see so far. Anyway, I haven't scrolled all the way down yet. Wow, 37 people in here hanging out already. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for taking time out of your weekend to come hang. I figured out that if I start editing video on Thursday nights, I can get one done on Thursday, and then I get stay up late on Fridays to get the other one done, which is what I did last night. And then Saturdays it's a matter of then I'm a little bit more guaranteed that I'll be able to have time to do this live stream and hang out with you guys for a while, and have plenty of time left over to enjoy the rest of my weekend. Timbuktu says, "Hi, Chicago here. My new Epiphone Les Paul special came in. P90 soap bar pickups. Great axe for the dough. Yeah, those, the current line of Epiphones are actually really well made. Not very expensive either. Gibson seems to have knocked the prices down to the Epiphone stuff too, and improved the electronics. For the longest time they all came with those Alnico. Most of them anyway came with those Alnico Classic humbuckers, which are basically import version of the 57 Classic, and that's the most hit or miss pickup that I've ever seen. You know, I have an Epiphone Les Paul Custom that has those pickups in it. It sounds okay. And I had another Epiphone Les Paul Standard, and at once upon a time that had those pickups in it, and that guitar sounded like shit. So, you know, now they've gone to import versions of the Burstbuckers, I think, which I'm not really a fan of the Burstbuckers, but the imports actually seem to be a little more consistent. and actually have a little bit more clarity than the Alnico Classic sometimes did. Anyway, yeah, congratulations, man. Great guitar. Don B says, doesn't he own the George Harrison SG? He does. That one's only about $500,000, about a $550,000 guitar. He owns the George Harrison SG. He owns Prince's Cloud guitar. He has, what was the other big one that he bought recently? He bought a 59 Les Paul about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. He got a smoking deal on that one. He only paid $250,000 for that one. It was a little bit faded, but you know, I couldn't believe we got that thing as cheap for him as we did. Let's see, and there's one other artist owned guitar that he bought recently that's escaping me at the moment. I can't remember which one it was. You know, it was a real famous artist guitar. It wasn't Blackie. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to ask Chris. It was the one that whichever one it was that he bought. Well, you know, he also owns Jerry Garcia's Tiger guitar, by the way. But no, there was the one that he bought before Prince's Cloud guitar. That's the one I can't recall. Let's see. Dave's Guitar Channel says, "Hey Robert, fun stuff on your channel. You should come on one of my live Zoom discussions. You would fit right in." Yeah, man. Let me know when you guys do that sort of thing, and I'll be happy to. I'll come hang out with you for a while. Mad Matt 55 is here. Welcome to you. Savinity Guitar says, "What's the recap? Recap of what?" Dave's Guitar Channel says, "Kashmir was recorded on a Danelectro. Plenty of cheap guitars do big jobs." Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Tim Jenkins 502 says, "I heard you were talking about getting another Strat style guitar. I would recommend G&L for the money." Those are actually the ones I'm looking at the most, to be honest with you. I'm looking at that, you know, and they've also got a jazz-based model that really has my attention right now as well. But yeah, right now I'm still leaning towards the G&Ls more than any of them. You know, just one of the tribute models. I don't need a high-end one, but yeah, the G&Ls and actually the Schecter Nick Johnston imports are also have my attention at the moment. Those actually seem to be pretty cool. So it will likely be one or the other, but more than likely not both. Robert Bryant says, "Black Strat sold for $3.975 million. Wow, I didn't realize he paid that much for it. Almost $4 million for that guitar. Wow, that's insane. I didn't think it was that much because Kirk Hammett only paid $2 million for Peter Green's 59 Les Paul. Pardon me. And I saw him playing that guitar on stage 6 months after he bought it. Wow, almost $4 million. Wow. Gino Lasek, great for the money. Strat style, not so much. The bridge stinks. I could probably learn to live with the bridge. I mean, I don't get too picky about bridges, and I think on those guitars, depending on which ones you're talking about, they've got the S500, and then they've got the Legacy, which are both Strat model. And I guess the Comanche's also kind of a Strat model too, but that's the one with the weird Z pickups in it. I've been told those pickups don't sound quite as good, but the S500 or the Legacy, which is probably the one I'd be after. I think one of them anyway comes like a Wilkinson style bridge, and I actually like those. Tim Jenkins 502 says, kind of a rant. Guitar shops would sell more if they set their guitars up with new strings and everything. It's such a downer to pick up an action shop that plays like trash, even missing strings. It is, but what a lot of people, a lot of people seem to think that, when you work at a guitar shop, you sit around playing and talking about guitars all day long, and that's not the case. And I mean that stuff is time consuming, and it's not. It's not like you're, putting a set of strings on a guitar is an expensive, is a real heavy business expense. It's not, but the labor that goes into all that stuff is, and especially if your shop has a dedicated guitar tech, and it's his job to do that, and he's got 500 guitars on the wall, to maintain. There's only one or two people to do that. That's a lot of work, and guitar shops. I mean, especially Guitar Center right now is really hurting because they're running on serious skeleton crews right now. A lot of their staff didn't come back when they reopened after the pandemic, and even they've got regulations that they have to follow, and as far as how many people they can allow in the building at one time, at least in a lot of states, and it's a lot for those guys to keep up with, man. It's a lot to keep up with. That's a lot of work for a very, very small staff. I agree with you, and honestly, I think Guitar Center should that there's one thing that they should focus on is making sure all of their guitars are ready to go, ready to play right off the wall. Um, but it's unfortunately it's just not that simple. Robert Bryant says the entire Gilmore collection brought $21,490,750 according to Christie's auction house. Wow. Well, almost four of that was the black. I mean, there's a lot of guitars in that auction, a lot of guitars. So if I got to assume that the black Strat brought more of them, brought the most. I mean, that's his most famous one. It had to have, or well, I guess it was his most famous one. I can't believe he sold them. To be honest, man. Dave's Guitar Channel says I wouldn't call Blackstar a UK amp, more like a Chinese amp. Most of their amps are made in China, but their high end ones are made in the UK. Um, like the Series 100, Series 200s. I think those are British made amps. The Series 200 especially that's a great that is a good amp, but they're expensive. Stu Rat 5150 says thoughts on buying artist guitars. Bought Jimmy Deegan's PRS Custom Relic Mira. I don't know who Jimmy Deegan is, but you mean like, I guess I don't know what you mean by artist, by artist guitars. I don't know if you're talking about like signature guitar models, or if you're talking about artist owned and played. Um, it's more of a collector thing than anything. Um, and you got collectors, and then you've got players, and those are really are two entirely different categories, and two totally different demographics of customer. Certainly, I mean, if I had the money to buy, like if I had Ursay money, I'd be, yeah, I'd be trying to acquire that kind of stuff too, because I think it's cool. But there's but you also have the artist guitars that you can't verify were actually belong to a specific artist, or they belong to I had a chance to buy an ST bass, BC Rich ST bass from it was the Smurf Blue one. It was an '80s USA model. Um, I've been kicking myself for not buying that bass ever since too, because I think it was awesome, but I didn't have the money at the time. Um, but it was previously owned by um, what's the dude's name? Eric Turner, who's the bass player for Warrant. Um, it was supposedly his bass back in the '80s, and I think he even did a music video with it, supposedly. However, there wasn't any documentation to go along with it to verify that. So, as far as value goes, there was no way to corroborate that, because there's no provenance. And without that, it's just an '80s USA made ST bass on its own. There's no additional provenance to boost the value. So, that stuff you kind of got to be careful of too. Watch Pawn Stars if you don't know what I mean. That's they pay real close attention to that. DMR Production says tried Black Star, never again. Marshall rules. I'm not gonna argue with that at all. I love Marshalls. They put out a few clunkers over the years, but the MA series amps I thought were particularly, especially were garbage. Stuart 5150 says I was never a big Florida Georgia Line fanatic, but it was a cool guitar. Okay, so I'm guessing that Jimmy Deegan dude must be in Florida Georgia Line. So, yeah, and that's another thing that you got to think Jimmy Deegan, for example, I'd never heard of until just now. So, Jimmy Deegan is not Jimmy Page. Don B says, "What do you think of the Gibson custom Bucker pickups and the custom Chop Les Pauls?" Gibson have come out with a lot of new pickup models the last few years. I used to be able to name every single one of them off the top of my head, and tell you exactly what they sounded like. But they've come out with a lot of new stuff now. They've got like a custom 61, and they've got a lot of pickup models on guitars I've never heard of. So, I mean, generally speaking, I like Gibson pickups. I really like the 490, the 496 and 500 set, the hot super ceramics that they put. They used to put those on all their Explorers and Flying V's, and that's what came in the Les Paul Classics for a while. Those were always my favorite Gibson pickups because I like the output. I've also liked the dirty fingers. That's a temperamental pickup. You got to run those into the right amp. But I've got one of those in my SG. So yeah, they're but the custom shop stuff, a lot of those are all those are more sometimes anyway are like actual hand wound. So they're a little bit more similar to an old 50s, 60s PAF style pickup. But yeah, I mean, Gibson, they typically make, their American pickups anyway are typically pretty good. Not always the most modern sounding pickups in the world. I mean, they're definitely have more of a vintage flavor to them, which is that's Gibson's thing. But they typically sound pretty good. Doc Amos Roxy says Clapton spent a lot of time in Columbus, Ohio these days. His wife. Hmm. His wife lives in Columbus, Ohio. I didn't know that. I know. I mean, he's lived in. I think he's lived in the U.S. forever. For several decades now. But non-existent human says I never got into Stratocasters till I got older. Always liked Jackson Ibanez bodies without the pick guard. Whenever I see an old ESP or Kramer, that Strat style brings me back. Yeah, I was kind of the same thing. I was never a Fender guy, and really I'm still not a Fender guy. Nothing. I mean, I like Fenders just fine, but um, I don't love them. And I don't need 20 of them. Um, but Tellys I'm really not big on at all. But that Strat sound, especially clean or real low gain type of overdrive sound, there is a certain mojo to that single coil tone. And I can get close to it with the coil taps on a couple of my Schecters, but still just not quite the same because just not quite the same. You know, so I would like to have a better Strat style guitar that'll do just that. Just those Strat tones. Don't no humbucker in the bridge or anything. That's you know if I'm looking at buying a Strat with a humbucker and a bridge, I mean I'm you better believe I'm going to be looking at anything else that has an HSS configuration. Strats should not have humbuckers in the bridge, in my opinion. Robert Bryant with the super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thanks for hanging out. Thank all of you for hanging out here on this lovely Saturday afternoon. I wish I could figure out my damn camera settings, how that thing works, that I wouldn't have to, close the blinds behind me because it is actually a beautiful day outside here in central Indiana. Brett Ben says, "How much is a reverse Gibson V worth?" Oh man, I don't know, man. I mean, grand, 12, 8, $900. I mean, they're not extremely. I mean, the last couple of those I saw, I heard somebody told me recently that their local guitar shop had one hanging on the wall for like 12, $1,300, and it hung there for like 10 years. Let's see if any have sold on eBay recently. Gibson reverse flying V. Yeah, it looks like a lot of people are asking anywhere from 11 to. There's one moron trying to get 2,300 out of his. Tell you what, I'll share with you guys what I'm looking at. Go to Mr. eBay. So, I mean, that right there is what there's one that's an auction for 770 where it's at right now. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a regular flying V, never mind. Those are all regular flying Vs except for these monstrosities up here at the top. So, Yeah, there's one that brought 15, 13. All right. So I guess it looks like they're actually bringing 13, 14, 1,500 bucks. There you go. I wouldn't pay 20 bucks for one, but that's just me. I forgot to pin my merchandise and my Teespring shop up there at the top of the chat like I usually do. So yeah, by the way, if you guys want to support the channel and you want to get something out of it for yourself, click on that link up there at the top, and I'll take you to my Teespring shop. There, and I still haven't figured out how to get this cleaned up, but there's several like T-shirt styles, like logos and stuff that'll have. They look like the like three different T-shirts, but there's like three different, like $2 or $3 more or less expensive. I want to get rid of the low one and the high one because the middle one, the ones that are usually around $23.99 are the best ones. And I actually make less. My cut of those is actually quite a bit less than it is on the others, but those are the best T-shirts. So if you buy one, make sure to get one of the $23.99 ones instead of the $21.99 ones because it's a much, much better T-shirt. Let's see. Serenity Guitar says, what guitar place is higher and what is pay? Well, it's usually, you can usually get on at one of the big stores, one of the big companies. The Guitar Center is the same as those places. As far as smaller shops, it depends. Nobody's going to get rich by going to work in the guitar business. It ain't happening. There's just not that much money. Profit margins are low as it is, and like I said, because of that, there's, it's retail. It's retail. It's not going to. You can make a living. You can make a living doing it. I've been doing it for 15 years now. But you're not going to get rich. Doc Amos Roxy says, if I was Irsay, I'd give it back to Gilmour until he passes. Gilmour got $4 million for it. I think he's been well compensated at this point. Frankfurt says, what do you think the worst guitar is? Gibson Reverse Flying V. No question. I would be caught dead playing one of those things. I take the worst quality guitar though that I've ever run across though is that stupid Volkswagen Garage Master, and there are people that own those things and love those things, and I get lambasted over making fun of that guitar all the time. I mean, people are passionate about those stupid Volkswagen Garage Master guitars. I have no idea why. I think they're complete dog shit, but they're people are just, they are diehards about that guitar. There is a strong cult following for that guitar out there, even though you can pick them up on the used market for $150 or less. But I think they're terrible. Robert Bryan says I have a couple of north of $1,000 guitars, but one of my favorites is a Hagstrom LP style guitar that I bought off eBay for $200. Hagstrom make nice stuff, man. They make real nice stuff. I would actually really like the one of the Phantomans, the Ghost signature guitar. It's just got to be a Ghost signature, because all the with the exception of Tobias Ford, aka I guess right now it's Cardinal Copia, is his stage name. But all the other members in that band are anonymous, so they had to make it a Ghost signature model for the guitar players because they both play one. Joseph Austin, thank you so much, sir, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Says, I love the Windsor review. Keep bringing out old gems people need to know about. That series, is the Forgotten Gems of the Past series is kind of, a lot of people seem to really like it, which is why I keep doing them. And also, it's easy for me to, just pick up something. When I don't have any other gear to demo at the moment, kind of give it a little bit of a twist on a theme. But yeah, that amp actually is a really really cool amp, and doesn't get a lot of recognition these days. So, unfortunately, I don't have the online clout like Josh Scott does of JHS pedals. That whenever I talk about something, the value's not going to skyrocket like they do with him. Joseph Austin says, Robert got a vintage Charvel Jackson from '86 this week, hitting up the Iron Maiden stuff. Killer stuff, man. If it's the USA stuff, or I've got an '87 or a '87, yeah, '87 Model 5. I don't play it as much as I probably should, but it's a killer guitar. I like that guitar quite a bit. Also, what a deal! And people let let these go for a song right now, and unreal for a Japanese guitar. So yeah, a lot of them. It depends on which ones. If it's like any of the bolt-on models, you can get those. People seem to let those go pretty cheap. You start getting up to the Model 5s and Model 6s. The neck through, 80s models. Those go for a little bit more money. Kobe House says, friend of mine sold a Kramer aluminum neck bass to Claypool, Les Claypool. I don't think Claypool still has it, but it's a small world. That's pretty cool. Those things are freaking heavy, man. God, those things weighs like 15 pounds, something crazy. That is a heavy, heavy instrument. You wouldn't think it would be because it's aluminum, but apparently aluminum gets heavy. Allen Aviation says, I have a bowl that Bob Dylan used to eat his Captain Crunch. Keep my picks and slides in it. Interesting. I'll have to. That's what I have on this. I ought to just have a desk that that I keep. These picks actually do. These flow picks that I've been using for a while. I find because I surprisingly don't lose them. So I set them up here on the desk, and then eventually, but they, especially for faster solo stuff, that the tip does tend to round off a little bit. So I ought to just have a bowl up here, plus for slides and short little 6-inch cables. I'm finding myself doing more and more recording from out here at my desk than I am back there in my music room with all my guitars and stuff hanging on the wall. So. But this desk is way too big to move back there to that room. So we'll do that in the next house. Hayes Gear Bazaar is here. Welcome to you, sir. 45 viewers. Wow. Mr. Wade File says, "Hey Robert, what's your take on a 4x8 and 4x10 guitar cabinets?" 4x8 I have no use for. That's much better for for a higher frequency bass cabinet, but for guitar, I think 8-inch speakers are useless. Man, they sound way too boxy to me. 410s, more of a bluesy style kind of thing. They're there's still plenty of Fender combos and and other boutique amps that come with 410s in them. Hot Rod DeVille, there's a 410 Hot Rod DeVille version. Fender Bassman, there's a lot of 410 models, 410 combo amps, and but extension cabs, I prefer 12s. I like the frequency range a lot better. 212s or 412s for me, man. Jerry Garcia, Mark Holt, welcome to you guys. Pardon me. Joseph Austin says, "I thought Clapton lived in Bermuda." I think you are confusing it with Antigua, and he doesn't live in Antigua, but he has a recovery resort. He is of course he's been sober for like 30 years now, but he is actually really, really big on recovery from alcohol and substance abuse, and he's dedicated a big chunk of his life to it. And Antigua is he actually has a recovery treatment center down there in Antigua, and they've helped a lot of people. So. Doc Amos Roxy, he says Clapton's wife is a Columbus native. He's occasionally spotted. Got on stage unannounced a year or so ago with Jimmy Vaughn. How does Eric Clapton get on a stage unannounced? Wow. Stu-Rat 5150 says, "Hitting the like button is free. Just saying." That is true. That is very true. Hitting the like button is absolutely very, very free. Which reminds me. Mr. Wadefile says, "Hey, Robert, what do you think of the Jet City 20H? They're okay. Pretty good sounding heads. They're not around anymore. I think they Soldano kind of closed the doors on the Jet City brand altogether. I don't think any of the Jet City stuff is being made anymore, but they're not really. I mean, they're owned by Soldano, and I think their designs and stuff, but it's, they're not really like import versions of Soldanos. They're they're kind of their own thing, but yeah, they're. I mean, I've plenty of people play those things and like them a lot. You could. They sound pretty decent, especially for the money. You could do a lot worse. Mr. Tudor 007 is here. Leonard Sabinsky is here. Leonard says, Robert, do you own any Gretsch guitars? I do not. I do not. For as long of a history as the Gretsch Guitar Company has, I don't own any of them. If I were going to buy a hollow body, that's probably the way that I would go. They're fantastic guitars. Fantastic guitars, but the truth is, I'm just not a hollow body guy. Yes, they have the Jets and the dual Jets and all that stuff, but and which are also great guitars, but the Jets just don't feel right to me. They just don't feel right or sound right. Nothing wrong with them. They just just not for me. Mark Holt says Samurai Guitarist has a reverse V usually hanging behind him. He loves that guitar, man. Samurai Guitarist loves his reverse flying V, but he's also gotten used to everybody making fun of it too. So, he and I have messaged back and forth briefly about that, and he's actually a pretty good sport. He didn't take offense or get bent out of shape when I made fun of it. Any of the times I've made fun of it. Doc Amos Roxy says all money went to Gilmore charity. I meant as a classy move for Irsay. I didn't know that Gilmore donated all that money from his auction to charity. Wow. Jim Irsay actually does quite a bit for the community as well. Here, if you don't live in Indianapolis, you kind of got to know some people in his circle. But he does a lot of things. He does a lot of things to help a lot of people, and you never hear about it. He just does it because because it's the right thing to do, and he's in a position to do it. I've heard about him. There is a restaurant owner here in town who was a diehard Colts fan, and the restaurant hit a rough spot. They were really in danger of closing, and Irsay gave them the money that that they needed to stay afloat and keep his business running. And like I said, they didn't. I don't think they reported that on the news or anything. You had to hear about it. But he did that and didn't ask for a dime of it back. He did that all on his own volition. Hang on a second, guys. My light just died. I'm gonna change the battery in it. There we go. Sorry about that. Much more gooder. Non-existent human says I've been looking out for that Volkswagen guitar for shits and giggles, but everyone wants an arm and a leg for them. Really? Last time I looked at that guitar, they were. God, they were dirt cheap. Let's see. First act. Garage Master. People are asking more for them now than they used to be. Okay. Once again, just so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Oops. Yeah, these are completed listings. These are, these guys here, the black ones. These are the ones that did not sell. Those are the ones that did sell. That's one that sold for an offer less than it sold for less than that price, but it doesn't tell us how much it sold for. So yeah, it looks like most of them are still in the 250, $150, $200 range, which is about what I figured. So I guess I've come up a little bit, but there's one that sold for $85, $78. Oh man, I hate those guitars. Let's see. Give me a moment here. You guys getting chatty, and I'm caught up. Rick James 5150. A lot of people putting 5150 at the end of their names. Van Halen fans all over the place, I guess. Says, I love the PV Wolfgang feel, but I want 3 single coil versions that don't seem to exist. And he suggests, unless Music Man makes, makes an Axis of some kind. I don't know if Music Man makes an Axis with single coils or not. I mean, they're the ones that actually designed that guitar for Eddie Van Halen. The very early run of the Wolfgangs were actually the Music Man Axis. And then of course PV took over from there, and Eddie's a humbucker guy, so I mean they're all gonna have humbuckers in them. Those are his signature guitars. But probably the closest if you can find a Music Man Axis with single coils in it, that's gonna be probably your only bet. Anarcho Luthier says, are they air cooled or water cooled? They're not cool at all. If you're talking about the Garage Masters. No one is awake. Thank you so much for the super chat, dude. Much appreciated. Very much appreciated. I will likely use that to go buy myself a cup of coffee here later, because I didn't think I was going to get to do my live stream today, because I woke up this morning and the power was out, and so I called I called Duke, and they were telling us, we're aware that it's been reported, we're expecting to have it turned back on by 1:30, which was 2.5 hours, and unfortunately came back on much sooner than that, but with the power out, so is my coffee maker. No one is awake soon says, how long before box stores die? Likely never. Likely never. And you don't want them to die, because, quite honestly, it's the box stores that are keeping the guitar companies going. The big companies and the small companies, because they're buying them in bulk. They're buying those guitars in bulk, which is where the guitar companies are making their money. Not the guitars and basses, all the all the gear companies, all the gear manufacturers. I know a lot of you guys don't like box stores, and believe in supporting small business and all that. And that's great, but the truth is we all need big box stores around too. They are as much a part of that ecosystem for us being able to get the gear that we want, as much as anybody else. So Alex2112 says, Robert, I just plugged in my golden plexi pedal to my Montgomery Ward solid state amp from the 70s, and it's incredible sounding. That golden plexi pedal is a great Marshall plexi in a box. Somebody brought that up. I think it was last week or maybe the week before here on one of these live streams, and it I have it's made by a brand called Tone City. If you're not familiar with them, I have the a pedal from them called the Model M, which is basically the golden plexi with a 2-channel golden plexi with a boost in it. Sorry, battery died. Having all kinds of technical difficulties here today. Yeah, the golden plexi is killer, man. Killer pedal. Plexi in a box, or I have maybe more of a hot rodded plexi. I guess it kind of depends on how you dial it in. But hi, Robert. Joey Van Ostrin says, hi, Robert. Just got a Squier Active Contemporary Starcaster. What a great guitar. Sharp departure from my Jacksons and Ibanez's. Yeah, I haven't played those Active Contemporary guitars, but I've sold a few of them, and the people that bought them actually really like them. I think they're actually active guitars, which is about time that they came out with something like that in the Squier line. Joseph Austin says, I don't know if it's a good thing. If the box stores die, they really prop up the big manufacturers. I bet Guitar Center sells more Squiers than anyone. They exactly what I was just saying. You're right. They probably do sell more Squiers than anyone. But I mean, Guitar Center actually also sells a lot of. You may not see them hanging on the walls in stores, but they do sell a lot of guitars from the smaller companies as well. They're carrying Chapman guitars now, for example. And they've got Chapman. They've got some of the higher end boutique builders, like Relish and Duesenberg, stuff like that. And they're a big proponent to those smaller companies. They keep going. They used to have like Tom Anderson at one point. I don't know if it still have Tom Anderson guitars or not. Even then, Tom Anderson's got some real street. You can only buy those out of certain stores like Nashville. So, hey, Christopher Morrow's here. Welcome to you, sir. What'd you miss? Not much. We're just hanging out talking about guitars. Mark Holt says, Robert, how about an open back 115? I hate open back cabs, to be honest. Too loose sounding. I like tight. I like tight sounding closed back cabs. Tighten up the bottom end. And they get too loose. Bottom end on guitars on electric guitar gets too loose, especially in a live situation. I find it. For the tones that I dial in anyway, it seems to be a little too easy to step on the bass player's toes. Kobe says, Robert, what is the most expensive guitar you've ever had that was worth every penny? My Music Man Majesty. No question. Worth every dime that I paid for that guitar, plus a whole lot more. I'm going to be buried at that thing. I mentioned earlier, I'd love to have one or two more, to be honest with you. The one thing that I can't do with it is change tunings, at least not on the fly. Because it's the tremolo system that's in. It's not a locking tremolo. or locking bridge. So if you drop something, you'll throw the whole thing out of whack. Once it's that one, it's got such a thin neck on it. I got to adjust the neck. Like when the seasons change, whether I've played it or not, it's just kind of, that's one of the things about it. Not that it's a big deal, but Music Man puts that little truss rod wheel down at the base of the neck, it makes it real easy to do. So that is not a big deal for me at all. But I keep mine tuned to D sharp standard or E flat standard, whatever you want to call it. And there's been plenty of times I wish I could go and drop that bottom string down to a drop tuning, and haven't been able to because throw the whole thing out of whack. Now once it's set up, and it's that tremolo does not go anywhere once it's set up. I think it's a great design, but can't adjust it, at least not on the fly, not without getting out screwdrivers and stuff. But that is easily the best guitar that I've ever had. Joseph Austin says even if they go away, if they hit bankruptcy, they'll stiff their vent. Guitar Center's not going to hit bankruptcy anytime soon, I promise you. It ain't happening. Guitar Center's not going anywhere. Guitar Center is not going anywhere. Oh, Hayes Gear Bazaar is formerly Big Cole. Regular viewer. She have said something. I would have known. I guess she did say something, but she just said something earlier. I would have known otherwise. Metal Base 1000's here. No one is awake says I've gotten 2 Memory Man Deluxe pedals that stopped working within a year. Quality nowadays of Electro-Harmonix. They answer the phone once a year, so good luck with customer care. I've had good luck with my Electro-Harmonix stuff. They don't, for the most part, they've all been solid, all been real solid. I hated them for years, for reasons just like that, because I'm not going to tell you I haven't run across my share of duds over the years, but all the EHX pedals that I have right now actually are pretty solid. I'm looking at most of them here from where I'm sitting. Well, a few of them anyway. No, I think they've for the most part I think they've improved their quality and their build quality, and they're coming, and their circuit designs I think have been for the most part pretty outstanding recently. I'm not going to go own a pile of their every big muff that they've ever made. You guys know how I feel about fuzz pedals, but some of the others, like their overdrives, Sultan, the Soul Food overdrive is killer. That's a great overdrive pedal. Soul Food overdrive. I've got the Badstone phaser. I done with that a long time ago. Which is kind of a phase 90 with a twist. So, as far as their customer service goes, that I can't account for. They're a big company too, though. So. Non-existent human says I only see the pop-up locally for about 200 plus, and talk about the VW guitar. Says I'm lucky to see it under $100. I'd buy it for $10 just so I could smash it. To see how many people I could piss off by doing it. I'm Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna keep that idea to myself in case it doesn't happen. Fred, let's see if I can pronounce your last name here. DiGirolamo. I don't know if I got that right or not. It says Silhouette Special makes SSS. That is true. I don't know if they make it in the Music Man line or if that's just. I know they have it in the Sterling. Let's see here. Music Man Silhouette. Not an SSS. They've got an HSH. I don't know if they. Sterling's gone to. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I think the Sterling's maybe gone too. Sterling by Music Man. The Cutlass. That's the one that replaced it. That's right. Now it's the Cutlass. It's a little bit more of a Strat style body. And they do make that in the Music Man line. And the Sterling line. Sterling ones actually look pretty sharp. Man, maybe I'll go that route. Cool. Good to know. Thanks for pointing me in that direction, dude. Joey Van Ostrin says, Robert, your output volume is incredibly low. I've got it cranked, dude. I've got everything on it cranked. I mean, it's echoing in my ear. Give me a minute to get caught up in the chat here, guys. Mr. Waitfile says, hey, Robert, what's your take on a Marshall MOSFET 100 solid state head? Great heads, actually. I talked about this in a video here not too long ago. The Marshall, that was kind of part of the lead series. The big one, the big 100-watt one was what they called the MOSFET 100. But those came out in the 80s, I think, and they were basically solid state versions of the JCM 800. And they actually sound pretty good. Do they sound as good as the JCM 800? No, but for if you were on a budget and you were trying to get close to that sound, it was a pretty good option, especially at that time. No, I think they're great. I like those amps quite a bit. Quite a bit. No one is wasted. My local box stores are stocked with high-pressure sales tactics. I'm going to teach you a real, a a real good phrase here when that happens. Look them straight in the eye and say, no, thank you. They cannot get into your wallet without you allowing them to. Allen Aviation says, ever play a Music Man amp? I have a head that's a tank, great cleans, great reverb and tremolo, and loud for a 65 watter. I don't think it's a great pedal platform. I actually disagree with you. I think they're real good pedal platforms. Yeah, the old Music Man amplifiers are, that's actually, they're actually regarded for their clean sound. They're very, very clean sounding amps. And I think those are Leo Fender designs. Even though a lot of them are solid state or hybrid. But they're tanks. They're heavy, big, heavy, big, especially the combos. But no, there's a lot of people still really, really like those amps, including me. I like them quite a bit. I've gotten a lot of grief for leaving those out of my greatest clean amps ever video that I did. I don't know what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was now. Brian Mathiasen says people will always need to touch a guitar before they buy it. That's why box stores won't go away. There'll be some people out there that do that, but honestly, the last 3 or 4 guitars I bought have been sight unseen. I'm not afraid to buy a guitar sight unseen. If I don't like it, I'll send it back. It's not that big of a deal to me. But there are still a lot of people that prefer to play them before they buy them. But I think that percentage of the population, I think, is starting to decrease. There's not quite as many of those guys left as there used to be. I think a lot of people have opened up to buying online. William Silva says, I have a guy trying to sell me a Mesa Nomad 100 for $500. Should I get it? Yes. Nomad for $500? Yeah, that's not a bad deal at all. Play Delay Play says, Robert, would you buy another Majesty or a JP Bolt-On? I'd go Majesty. I like the neck through. I like the neck through design. The JP guitars are cool too, but the Majesty's an entirely different beast. It's just more my speed. I think the Majesties actually are lighter and play faster too, to be honest with you. Joey Van Osteren says, I have a Firefly LP3 humbucker Blueburst guitar showing up on Tuesday. $240 comes standard with a Graphtec tusk nut. $3,500 Gibson comes with a plastic nut and sloppy frets. $3,500 Gibsons come with, they come with bone nuts, but those Firefly guitars are supposed to be awesome. I can't find one anymore. The only, the semi-hollow body ones pop up every now and again, which I don't have any interest in, but the Les Paul ones are the ones I'm trying to find, and I guess they sell out instantly on Amazon every time they show up. I can never track one down. Guitar Max has been touting those guitars for a while, and I really wanted to get my hands on one, and I can't find one. Brand new guitars, and I can't find one anywhere. I'll have to check Amazon when I'm done here. If they're up on Amazon today, I'll buy one today. So this thing's supposed to be killer. Kim's Workshop is here. Welcome to you, Jedi Minion, Thunder Falcon. Oh, well, it looks like that's all the new folks here in the chat that I've seen so far, anyway. And Jedi Minion said, "What's your take on how to close the vacuum tube powered Fender Deluxe Reverb? Did Fender land with their Class D powered Deluxe Fender Tone Master?" That's a wordy question. How close to the vacuum tube? Oh, I think what you're asking, their new Tone Master series. Are you asking, how close that the Tone Masters are to the Tone Master Deluxe Reverb is to the actual tube version? My understanding is it's actually pretty close. Maybe not dead on, but it's they did a pretty good job getting pretty close to it. And Jim from the Practical Guitars podcast, who's a good friend of mine, he is actually gigging with one of those Tone Master Deluxe Reverbs right now, and he loves it. He says it's a fantastic pedal platform for his pedals, and tone wise for Deluxe Reverb, it's especially in a live situation. In a live situation, it's right there. There's nobody in the audience that's going to be able to tell if you're playing through one of those or you're playing through a 65 reissue tube version. So, and that's primarily what he's using it for, because he plays in, cover bands and open stages and stuff like that. So yeah, I think they have found themselves a market for it, because the other thing, they're a lot easier to carry around, man. You get for the most part a really, really close tone, Deluxe Reverb tone, and it's half the weight or less, and built very well. So they sound good. So I think Fender have carved themselves. I think they're going to find that, I don't think that amps, I don't think they're going to make them forever, but I'm not going to be surprised to see them expand the Tone Master line here in the next, year or two. So right now they just got the Deluxe Reverb and the Twin Reverb, but I bet you they'll expand it to some other models here down the road. Firefly Chinese. My understanding is, yes, they are a Chinese-made guitar company, but they're like really, really well made. I mean, they're like the 10S stuff and the Harley Bentons and the Agiles, that kind of thing. But they're selling Les Paul style guitars that are really well made for under $250, sometimes less than that. And you probably haven't heard of them because you never see them listed anywhere, because people snatch them up like crazy every single time. They can't keep up with the demand. Let's see. Damn chat jumped all the way down to the bottom. I lost my place. Hayes Gear Bazaar says, know anything about the Paul Reed Smith 15-watt Tremonti, the MT15? Yes, killer head. That one is also currently on my wish list. currently on my wish list. I would go buy one now, but I told myself my next major gear purchase is going to be, a Strat something or other, because I need, that's the greater need than anything, even though it's not what I want the most. I'd rather buy an MT-15, but MT-15 or a Marshall Origin head or something like that, but. Thunder Falcon, is Guitar Center finally going bankrupt? I hear they're not paying their bills. Well, they had 300 stores closed for 3 months, and their business took a hit just like everybody else did. No, they're not going bankrupt. They are, matter of fact, now they've got all of, they did fall behind with a lot of their, with a lot of the vendors, but they've been working hard for the last several months to get that straightened out, and they've just about gotten back to a clean slate with just about all of them. So, still a few of them that they're working on, but for the most part, they're just about back to a clean slate with everybody. So, no, if you guys hear any Guitar Center bankruptcy rumors, trust me, they're not. There's not a lick of truth to them. Christopher Morrow says, "Are you drinking a Calypso?" No, this is a Hubert's lemonade. I do like the Calypsos too, though, even though they're not good for you at all. But they sure are tasty. Those are on the shelf right next to the Hubert's at the grocery store that I shop at. Pardon me. Doc Amos Roxy, speaking of Grote and Fireflies, much difference in quality? I don't know, because I haven't been able to get my hands on either one of them yet. What I really don't want to see is these, and I'm thrilled that there's a lot of new companies that are making really really high quality stuff in China. 10S, Firefly. I'm elated that kind of stuff is finally hitting the market. Because it's number one, it's they're great quality guitars for us, and number two, it's forcing Gibson and Fender to and the other big companies to focus more on increasing and improving the quality of their lower end, more inexpensive models. So believe me, I'm all for it. What I hope doesn't happen though is that the market gets flooded with those brands. Because it's if the market gets oversaturated, then we got a whole new set of problems. Especially if they're all dealing online, and there's not any hanging in any guitar stores anywhere. So. No One Is Awake says, "Does the F on the PRS Strat have anything to do with sound at all?" I'm not PRS Strat. I assume you're talking about the Silver Sky, the John Mayer version. I wasn't aware of an F. If they got an F hole painted on it or something like that. Stu Rap 5150 says Harley Benton SC550 would be better quality than a Firefly. Possibly, but I think that one's also more expensive. By $100, $200 or something, if memory serves. Non-Existent Human says, "Check out Guitar Garden. It's a website that has the Firefly guitars." I have, and they're all sold out. I tried there too. Amazon sold out of them. Guitar Garden sold out, and I don't know anybody anywhere else that carries them, but everywhere that does seem to carry them, they're all sold out. Joseph Austin says, I also wonder how many beginners quit because they have difficulty with a bad setup. I don't think it's as many as you might think. I think if somebody's going to quit, they're going to quit. If somebody's going to stick with it, they're going to stick with it. My first guitar, which was a cheap Strat copy back in the late '80s, I still have that guitar. But knowing what I know now, learning to play on that guitar played like shit. Because I didn't know any better. And I think there's a lot of people out there, even if they get a shitty playing guitar, they don't know any better. So, if they want to stick with it, they'll stick with it. Let's see. Robert, I have a guy locally that seems to have Firefly and Groat routinely, at least since about 3 months ago as I deleted Facebook. But do miss the local guitar trading. I would like to know what shop that is and if they have a website. Robert Guitar Max also sings the praises of Wolf ALP guitars. He has a point. They make a sharp-looking instrument. Yeah, they do. The ALP. You talk about AIO, all-in-one guitars. I think is the same company as Wolf. They do, and they have a Strat model that has my attention as well. I sent them a message on Facebook because I couldn't find any other way to contact them though, and I never got a response. Because I am curious about those, but you're right. Max has had some very, very good things to say about those, the Wolves in particular. William Silva says, I have a Wolf WPRS, I assume that's just PRS, that I love. Came with a free setup, and I got them ship it to me for $250 total. Yeah, maybe I'll try find a phone number for them today. Especially if I can get one of. They got some really, really cool, like flame top looking Strat models and stuff that I am very, very curious about. 10S has a killer Strat model as well. They've got I think they call it a lizard drop top or something like that. It's like this green flame top looking thing. It's beautiful guitar, but it's a little bit more money. So I'm thinking I may just save my money up and buy that one. That way I can also support those guys. But I don't know. I'm getting a little itchy to buy something. I probably shouldn't be. Agile Durant says you like the Wolf Les Pauls. Check out the Agile 3100S. I love the Agile Les Paul models. Those things are killer. All of them. They've got a couple of fan fret models that I would like to try. Joseph Austin says, I'm amazed at the quality finishes the Chinese and Indonesian guitar factories are putting out. The Schecters coming from Indonesia are really pretty. Yep, I agree. It took, as is the case, I've talked about this before too. Whenever a new guitar factory in a new country opens up and they start building guitars, it usually takes them about 10 years or so to figure it out. If you guys remember about 10 years ago when Jackson, when Fender first started making those real, the cheaper import Jacksons in like India and Indonesia, and those guitars sucked. Oh my God, they were terrible for a while. But 10 years later, they've they kept at it and they figured it out now, and those guitars are built pretty well. You know, same with Ibanez. The first, when Ibanez first started making guitars in Indonesia, those guitars sucked. Those were terrible too. But for the most part, there were some exceptions, but now, I don't have any issues, or any trepidation at all about buying an Indonesian made Ibanez, made just as well as the ones they make in Japan. Hayes Gear Bazaar says your 10S was sounding excellent in your last video. Thank you, sir. Which one did I've used it on a few videos recently, and I'm not sure. Must have been the Boss Distortion Shootout video. I think I used it in that one. So I think the other videos that I've used it in recently are not up yet. And you guys won't see those for at least till later this week, I think. Later next week, that is. Christopher Morrow says, "Hey Robert, whatever happened to Series 10?" Oh man, they were one of those more inexpensive, like pardon me. I hate to call them budget guitar companies, but especially back in the '90s, let's face it, that's what they were. That's what they were. So they kind of, like a lot of those those companies, they filled their niche at the time, and they kind of faded away. So, not uncommon. You get companies that make copies of other guitars. Like, I don't know how Jay Tercer has managed to stay around and keep doing it. Stay in business as long as they have, copying other people's guitars like they have. So, like OLP, there's another one. I don't think they're around anymore. But you still see their used guitars all over the place on the market. They were making Music Man copies. So. And you guys probably hear Zoe going nuts, barking at something outside in the background. She's fine, babe. She's not bothering me. Kobe Ellis says, Robert, are Guitar Center, Sam Ash, and Sweetwater affiliated? They look oddly similar. Nope. Not at all. All direct competitors. All direct competitors of each other. About the only thing that they have in common is they all three of them use Synchrony Bank as their consumer finance credit card company. That's it. Beyond that, they're not related at all. Some of the other like online retail brands are owned by Guitar Center. Musician's Friend, Woodwind and Brass Wind, Music 123, Music and Arts, and of course Guitar Center. Those are all under the Guitar Center Enterprises umbrella. But Sam Ash and Sweetwater are not affiliated with any of those. Paul Fuchs says, what am I supposed to do with scales? Assuming you're talking about, music theory and music scales. Practice, man. When you're writing songs, start with a minor pentatonic because there's only 5 notes. There's only 5 notes in a key. That's generally where most people start. That's where I started. I still use that scale all the time today. It's just the one that I know. It's one that a lot of people know. So, as Tony Ramsey would say, practice. Practice.
'Cause I think the only thing that they have in common is they all three use Synchrony Bank as their consumer finance credit card company. So, you know, as Tony Ramsey would say, practice.
Practice, practice. If you really want to learn, pick whatever scale it is that you want to learn. Pick a position. Pick a key in a position, and learn that shape. And what I mean by shape is where I have a guitar behind me. What I mean by shape is I'm going to do this in the key of, if you can see my hand anyway, I'm going to do this I guess I'll do it in the key of G just because of where the camera's pointing. And I don't recommend doing it. I recommend starting in E because then you can do this up here where the frets are closer together and it's going to be easier. It's not quite as much stretching. But what I mean by shape is, for example, if you're talking about minor pentatonic, oops. All those notes right there, that is the shape of the scale in that particular position. And that's where you start, So, whether you're writing solos or you're writing a song, and of course that'll translate all up and down the fretboard. And forgive me, I'm not real skilled at teaching and discussing music theory, but, that's where you start. Once you have a riff in mind, if you're writing a song in the key of G, whatever it is you may be doing, you're going to solo in that same key. And, so if you really want to learn that scale, pick a position and learn all the notes in that position and don't go outside of it. And write a solo to whatever chord progression, loop a chord progression or something with a looper pedal, and then, start writing a solo in that key and position on top of it, and then, you can branch out from there. So, sorry, I know that wasn't the best visual in the world because my camera isn't pointed down quite enough, but agree on that. Gabriel Tone Guitar says, "Where's my blue wrench?" I have no idea. I didn't take it. Thunder Falcon says, looking for a Strat, try Fender Deluxe Roadhouse Strat. Awesome specs. Actually, from that series, I would probably go with the Deluxe Player Strat because I really, really like that model. It was, what I call the Mexican Deluxe series from the late, the 2000s into the mid 2010s, thereabouts. They had the Roadhouse, the Lone Star Strat, and the Deluxe Players. The Roadhouse, I think it was the Roadhouse that had the humbucker in the bridge. Memory serves, it had a pearly gates. And the Lone Star had the 3 single coils. I could be mistaken, but you're right. Those are actually really, really good guitars, and they're, with some really good specs on it. But Gabriel Tone Guitar says, "Why is Guitar Center so slow with online orders? You have no idea how many orders they have received over the last 5 months." And with a very, very limited crew and very, very limited inventory, because not only did Guitar Center stores shut down for 3 months or more, but so did all of our vendors, their vendors, and so manufacturing is also behind. So in the instance, if you order, a Focusrite 2x2 interface, and the warehouse is out, sometimes you got to pull it, they got to pull it from one of the stores. And in doing so, the stores are operating on skeleton crews, like I talked about earlier. And before they opened, there was literally two guys in a store, basically operating as, um, makeshift backup warehouses, is what they were doing. But there's only two people, doing that at a store at a time. And, for a store, most stores usually will ship out 10, 15 online orders a day, give or take. Maybe you might get up around 20 or 25 on a Monday after a busy weekend, um, which is not unmanageable. But, you bump that number up to about 150 orders a day, they're going to fall behind. There's just no way around it. um, so the short answer to your question is, there was an extremely high demand, and that they fell very far behind on. That nobody, obviously nobody could have done anything to stop anything to do it, anything. Nobody could have done anything about it anyway, you know. But musicians are some of the most impatient people in the world, and all of a sudden, I'm so tired of listening to people complain about, orders not showing up, within the hour when they input their credit card number. William Silva says, my dog's name is Zoe. So is mine. Doc Hams Roxy says, I nailed a chick in the 80s named Zoe. Bet your dog is better looking. Oh, boy. Where is Zoe? She is downstairs, probably sitting with Mrs. J. Uh, when I'm home, she'll come up and hang out with me for a while, and I'm in my loft, and there's a couch right over here on the other side of the room. Sometimes she'll sit on there and hang out, while I'm sitting here hanging out with you guys. But if Mom's home, she's down there with her. She may come up here and say, hey, just to check on me, make sure that I'm doing okay and I didn't go anywhere. But for the most part, if Mom's home, that's where she is. And you guys are talking about scales, music theory stuff. I learned the hard way. I'm probably not the best guy to do any kind of instructional type of videos. I've done a few, and I get lambasted for those all the time. It kills me when people come, and leave troll comments on, on like my how to play like Ace Frehley video, and I think I played about 2.4 seconds of the Love Gun solo in that video, maybe, because I didn't want to play too much of it because I didn't want to get a copyright claim on my channel. So I mean, I just played a very, very short amount of it, and you have no idea how many people come to me and say, you're not playing it right. I'm not playing it at all, except for like the first 5 or 6 notes. And if you already know how to play it, why are you coming to my video to learn how to play it? Dumbasses. Frankfurt said some kid on Instagram said Dimebag, Daryl, and James Hetfield racist because the Confederate flag and the Iron Cross in their guitars. Oh man. Well, the Iron Cross I think is more of a, that's more of an Irish IRA thing, but I don't think that is the least bit true at all. They may, and I don't know if this is true or not. They may be, Dimebag may have been fairly conservative, and James Hetfield may be fairly conservative. I don't know, which is certainly not against the law by any means, but racist. That's a stretch. Especially back, the Confederate flag was a lot more accepted back in the '90s when Dimebag played most of his career. Take that into consideration as well. I mean, it was times were different. But that's all I'm going to say about that. You guys know how I feel about politics on my channel. I don't want them anywhere near it. I can't believe I spoke that much about it. Alrighty. We're coming up here on the 2-hour mark, fellas. So, thank you all for hanging out, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm reading a few more comments here. Maybe I shouldn't be, but yeah. All right, yeah. So again, thank you all for taking time to come hang out here for a while on a Saturday afternoon, and those and supporting the channel again, very very much appreciated. All support certainly does go a long long way, and yeah. Adios, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend.